everybody, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the 8th episode of my podcast and the very first for 2021. My name is Isam Hijazi, and as usual, as 2020, I'm still going to be your host. You are currently watching this live all the way from Sydney, Australia. Well, unless you're in Sydney, Australia, it's not all the way, but this is being streamed live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Today's topic will be telling your data story with the 3 V's. And these 3 V's are not the V's that you and I used to. These are the V's, the V's about volume, velocity, or variety. These V's represent something else: vocabulary, voice, and vision. Now, every enterprise has a data story to tell. And if you are a data management leader or a trusted advisor, you must create a compelling data management narrative to increase adoption, to get more funding, and support probably from the C-level leadership and the proper business stakeholders. So in this discussion, we are going to discuss the rationale and the business alignment on the value of proper data management rather than the technical implementation. So if you ask me, this is a strategic why conversation rather than technical how, or the tactical what, or even the organizational who. And to discuss and expand on this topic in more details, I'm really glad to be joined by the one and only, the data whisperer, Scott Taylor, all the way from the US. Scott has over 25 years of experience in data management and governance, and he's been helping large global enterprises to solve some of the most complex data management challenges. He has also helped data content owners and tech brands to tell their data stories and has enlightened, and hopefully will enlighten us as well, countless business executives on the value of proper data management. It's also worth mentioning that Scott has recently authored and published a book that's called Telling Your Data Story, which we will discuss in this episode today. In short, if you really want to tailor and take your data pitch to the next level, you are in the right place. Now, before we get started, I would like to ask you simple things to help us, or to help me to get this material reaching more people. A simple like on this video will do quite a lot. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button over there. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, do connect with me or follow me there. And since this is a live discussion, anything that you write in the chat, any question that you ask us, any feedback or opinion you have, please do input it in the chat section. It will be visible to myself as well as my guests, and would love to incorporate that into our discussion. If you've got nothing to say, simply say hello, tell us where you're from, and we'll say hi back to you. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. I see you're rocking the show already, Taylor.
Right.
Good evening to you,
I was
sir.
playing that live for you. Hopefully you know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate
This was Scott Guys playing that music.
How are you? Nice to
I'm
see
good.
you all the way from Sydney.
Yeah,
Good evening.
Good evening to you as well, Scott. Scott, let me ask you this. I mean, we are 8 days already into, or 7 days actually, into 2021. How has been this year been so far to you?
It's a blur. All you got to do is turn on the news in the U.S. and see that the craziness has not subsided yet, but
I know.
we're just blurring from one year into another, that's for sure. But so far, so good. Hope everybody's staying safe. I am too. You are too. So
Absolutely.
at this point, that's the best we can hope for.
Hopefully. And before
Happy
we can
New Year.
actually start with this episode and the content, I need to ask you this. The AKA, I mean, you being known as the data whisperer, is it something has a story? Because I'll tell you this, I've watched many of your videos and you're nothing near a whisperer. But my question is, do you whisper, or what's the story of that?
You picked that up right. So the data whisperer, Scott Taylor, the data whisperer, I help calm data down. That's what it's about.
All right.
Everybody in the data governance, data management space, we're all just trying to calm data down, get it organized, get it in managed, get it in the right direction. But as you've already noted, on a personal level, I don't do a lot of whispering. We got to yell, sell, and tell about the value of proper data management. So sometimes you got to shake it up a little bit. But the whispering we save for the data.
Absolutely. You're one hell of a performer. I've seen you on stage on some of the videos that you have. Absolutely stunning. All right, we've got some people here saying hello. So let's say hello back. We've got Sarah from Sydney. We've got
Hello, Sarah.
Sandesh also from Sydney. Hello, Sandesh.
Bogota. All right. Another
Ha-
continent
yeah.
represented. Indonesia,
Happy
Northern
New Year to you,
California. I love it.
Sandesh. And we've got Amwell. And we've got Devert. Hello and Happy New Year 21. And everyone attending, hello to you as well. And New Year to you as well. We've got Forkan saying hello from Indonesia. Hello to you. And we've got Scott Williams from Northern Carolina. Rock on, Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. Yes, he's been rocking this show already since the beginning.
All right.
All right. So we've got more people coming in. So hello, Muhammad from Jakarta. And hello, Magdalena from Germany. Oh, I've got a lot
Magdalena,
of
I know.
people.
Yes. She bought a
Yeah.
book. Thank you. Hi, Magdalena. How are you?
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's get started with this
All
episode,
right.
Scott. Tell me, what's your data story?
My data story is you have to have a data story. So I'm out there, as you said in your introduction, every enterprise has a data story. I'm trying to help people tell it. You've got to find a way to tell it. If you want support from your upper management, if you want C-level engagement, if you want business stakeholder involvement, if you want funding, money to do the things you want to do in data, you've got to be able to tell a story. And that story has to be something that really encapsulates how data brings value to an organization.
So when you say story, I mean, I've seen other people go and speak with their executive leadership and ask them, hey, our data needs cleansing, or they say, hey, I need a better MPP system to ETL my JSON or Avro data. What's wrong with that?
They don't even get the JSON; they'll be kicked out of there right away. So you can't talk that way. It's perfect. You can't tell people these sort of tactical, ad hoc, or technical
Right.
kind of terminology. It doesn't work. You've got to be able to put a narrative together that, as I like to say, supports the strategic intentions of an enterprise. And you've got to speak the business language. If you're going to talk to the business, talk in business language, and so they can understand it. Your whatever else you said about APIs and reference data architecture and all that other wonderful technical stuff, you need that to get it done. But you're not going to get it done if you don't get support. And that support comes from people who want to understand the why before they even get into the how.
Right. Right. So we need to speak in a language that's simple and understandable by those executive, and get away from all these B's, the buzzwords, to be specific.
Right.
And just make it as simple as it could be for them in order to get their support. So what is the right approach? What is the right steps to get there, Scott? I mean, people got used to certain way of telling their requirements or what they need to executive. Now we're telling them, hey, there's a better way to do it. So how can they convert to tell their stories better?
Well, one recommendation, of course, is buy my book. Hey, no problem, but we'll get to that later. But obviously, that's a compendium of a lot of the thinking I've had. We talked about simple. I want to make sure people understand it's not simplistic. You're not talking down to that audience. You're speaking in very clear, accessible language. You've got a clear idea of the narrative you're putting together, beginning, middle, and end, what you want to get out of it. So it's not simplistic. And simple doesn't mean easy. Simple can be very difficult. To boil things down to their basic atomic level takes a lot of work. There's plenty of folks, if it was Mark Twain or whoever else said it, if I had all day, or what did he backing up here? I didn't have enough time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long letter. That's what it was. So I forgot my anecdote, but it's that kind of thing. So you've got to really boil those things down to the succinct, direct points you want to make. And executive leadership, I've spent more than my share of time, probably my fair share of time in front of CEOs, and they like you to get to the point. You don't get a lot of extra shots. It's not about coming back later. It's not about thinking you can extend that meeting from 15 minutes to 2 hours. they will interrupt you and they will want you to get to the point. And if you start to waver around, they can pick up on that. So you've got to really get your narrative ducks in a row. That's for sure.
All right. So first step, if I hear you correctly, is to speak a language that they understand. So this is the first V of your three Vs, vocabulary, right? And the
Right.
second,
Yeah.
yeah, and the second V is voice. Can you tell me what that is exactly?
Sure. So backing up a little bit, you mentioned and it is a knowing wink to big data, vocabulary and voice and vision to tell your data story. That vocabulary piece is the terminology, the nomenclature, the language of your business. The voice, you want to harmonize your message to a common voice. Does your entire team talk about it the same way? How does your company refer to the things that you do that relate to data? How do they speak about and engage with your relationships? How do they present and position the brands that your company represents? All of that is around the voice. Very specifically for a data leader, it is, as I mentioned, everybody's talking off the same page. You can all communicate that same message. So if you've got a 2-hour lunch and learn with a group of sales folks, or you've got 3 minutes with your CEO, you've got to have the same tone, the same tenor, the same harmonization around that message, whether it's long or short. So it's really critical that you're all talking about the same thing in similar ways.
So a unified message. Would that be the correct way to express it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Unified message is absolutely part of it. Just as when you do master data, you want a unified set of data. Same kind of concept, single version of the truth, whatever it happens to be. So.
You're big on master data, and I've seen lots of videos. You're trying to explain what master data is. Since you brought that on, can you explain your version of what master data represents?
So master data is the common data that people share across systems and processes across their organization. And it's the data about the most important parts of their organization, their relationships, their brands, their assets, their people, the nouns of the business. In my particular view, people talk about value in data all the time. I suggest to you that master data is the most valuable data. It's the most important data any organization has because it is the data in charge of your business. It's the data about your customers, your vendors, your partners, your prospects, your brands, your services, your offerings, the things you make, the people you sell to and buy from and partner with. And that's the most important part of your business. You don't have a relation. If you don't have relationships, you do not have a business. It's as simple as that. So the data about those things, my logic goes, is the most important data you have.
Right.
And a lot of other data that people have is really about the things that is in their master data file. So when they look off and try and grab a whole bunch of unstructured social data to try and glean sentiment from that, what are they doing? They're trying to find out things that people are saying about something. And that's something that they are talking about are your products, are your brands. And the people who are saying those things, those are your relationships.
Right.
So for me, it always comes back to these really core, fundamental, as I mentioned, atomic level elements of a business, which in priority, the two main ones are relationships and brands.
Right. So this sounds to me like you're saying data is the raw material, is the fuel for everything else in the organization, whether that to increase your sales or to enhance your customer experience or to decrease your cost, whatever initiative or vision that you have, data is the initial asset, and the master data specifically is the one that you mentioned here. Is there any connection with master data management with master data, or are they the same thing here?
Yeah, I see those as two separate things. They're connected. Master data is the data itself. MDM is a practice area in some definitions, but it's also a form of commercial software. And that commercial software exists to manage the master data content. But the output of that is where the value comes, not just simply the implementation of that software. The output of that is the data that we're talking about, that master data, those entities, that structured data, the management of the hierarchies, the classification, the geographies, unique identifiers, all those piece parts that go into that are what can be managed in that MDM system. But I wouldn't confuse the two. It's like, there's a frying pan and an egg, there's a stove and there's food, there's a car and there's gas, whatever kind of analogies you want. The two things are inextricably linked, but they are separate. And my perspective is you want to really get that master data content. It's not just about putting an MDM system. The point of it is to create that content that then enables so many other things that an organization wants to do.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't want to drift much more into those. So let's continue on the topic of the 3 V. So the last V here we have is the vision. What that vision is about?
The big V is the vision. So I believe that everything you do in data should enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise. That strategic intention is the vision of your company. And as you put your story together, you should understand and to a great extent live and be fluent in the vision of your company. That vision, I don't know what it is. I've seen lots of examples, but if you're looking for it in your own organization, think back again and fill in the blanks in the kind of statement around every enterprise. Their vision is to deliver value to their relationships through their brands at scale. That's where all you folks come in the data space. If they want to do it at scale, they need you. They need technology. They need hardware, software, data. If they've got data, they need data management. It all comes together there. But you can't do these things at scale efficiently unless you've got the technological part of it done or in the plan. So fill in those blanks. What are your relationships? Customer, vendor, as I mentioned. Is it citizen? Is it patient? Is it what type of enterprise are you? And then what are your brands? Are they products, services, offerings? Do you deliver shipments of tangible widgets, or do you provide a digital as a service offering? If you boil it down to that simple level, those are both brand creations, brand entities, and they bring value to your relationships. So when you look at what you're trying to do with data, how does what you're doing in data enable that strategic intention? An example, we want to be, a vision of the company is, and this is an exact one from a company that I worked with, their vision was to be the premier partner of choice for their customers. Doesn't matter what they make, in this case, their manufacturer, but right there, that vision doesn't have anything directly to do with data management or data science. But when you think about it, you go, okay, there's customers. How's the data on our customers? Do we understand that data? Is it structured correctly? Can I integrate it with other insight I've got across the organization or from external partners that will help me improve that relationship so I'm a premier partner of choice? Speaking somewhat generically, but hopefully people follow along here in terms of that fill in the blanks exercise. What does this mean for your organization? What would you say, and how would you replace those words, relationships and brands and products? How would you talk about it, about what your organization does?
To me, this all sounds like a common sense in a way. I mean, I'm putting all these V's in my head now. I mean, everyone should be doing that already. I mean, if you want to go to someone and start asking him for things, then you need to act as a trusted advisor. And the way to do that, first, you need to speak the same language. Second, obviously, have the same voice, meaning having the same unified message from all other teams from the organization. And third, to parallelize that with the vision of your organization itself, where this company is trying to go. And if I was a CEO, if I was a CXO in a specific executive position, and someone come to me and tell me, hey, I can get you to that vision, then I'll say, hell yeah, let's do it. But if he comes to me and tell me, hey, I mean, I need to clean the data, I need to ETL this, ETL that, Why? I mean, do whatever you want. I don't care. I mean, that's your job. You're a ETL developer or data strategy executive or whatever your job title is. So you're not bringing anything new to the table here, unless you have a proper reason for me to listen to you. Then it will be pointless, pretty much. And I don't know if you realize this, Scott, but this applies pretty much to sales. I've been in sales business for many decades, right? And this is a sales strategy. I mean, if I go to a customer and I start speaking to the executive team, I don't tell them about the features and capabilities of my product. I give them the value that they will eventually get from my product, and I do my due intelligence before I go. I go and read about the company, its vision, its statement. I go read some of those public statements if it's a public company. I extract a lot of information from those companies. So when I go there, I speak the same language, the same vision that they have, and also obviously the same jargons that they use in their organization. And that's when I actually have a successful establishment for a sales pitch. Otherwise, I've seen many people fail when they just show up and throw up, if I may say so, about what their product is about. I mean, who cares about your product? There are plenty of ETL/MDM/data cleansing solution out there. If you want to pitch me those, it's just another tool out there. But what really interests to people, I guess, is when you come and tell them the value that you will help them achieve, and that's in the sales word called value selling or solution selling. So this pretty much align. Eventually, everyone is selling something, whether that's internally or externally, trying to get something, and the way to do it is to sell it. So
selling for me is just convincing somebody of the benefits of what you have to offer, and finding that need, as they say, and filling it. Part of my data story that I skipped before is I came from the sales side, as you probably know, and taking a look at some of the book there. So the reason I got good at this was because I was selling data management services, master data, pre-mastered content. I wish I named it that 20 years ago when I started. It sounds a lot better now.
Yeah.
From Dun & Bradstreet, from Nielsen. I started off at Nielsen, and that was the data we had. We had a mastered set of locations. But what I got good at was explaining this kind of data to people who had no interest in the data part of it, the technical part of it. The IT, we would talk to two audiences. The IT audience that got it, right? They understood it. Luckily now, data, the responsibility for it has expanded beyond IT. I wish there were CDOs that I could have called on in those days, but we tended to call on the very technical side, on the IT side. So I had to be able to converse with them, and I brought folks with me. But they would say things like, yeah, we get it, but the business isn't asking for it. And I'd have to go explain it to the business. I could not explain it to the business the way I explained it to IT. I learned that the hard way. I had people go, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I sit back and say, Scott, that sounds fine, but I'm clueless here. All I got to do, it was a vice president of sales for a large bakery. Yeah. He said, Scott, I just got to learn got to see how what you do helps me sell bread. And what you've told me doesn't sound like it has anything to do with helping me sell bread. Now, he was wrong. The customer's always right. He was wrong. What I could provide could help him sell bread, but I was wronger. I just couldn't explain it the right way. So you are absolutely right. It is a pitch, and the story you need to tell to your executive leadership, and certainly in any kind of business setting, I believe, is some form of a pitch. And a pitch isn't, a guy hawking a bunch of snake oil on the corner there, as people kind of think of it if they think of like a circus barker or something. A pitch is a story that leads somebody to commit to an action.
Right.
And in business, that's the purpose of a business conversation. We want to commit to an action. In a sales process, it's the prospect saying yes to your services and moving from there. When you're talking to your own organization, it could be, will you fund this project? Will you support this with some organizational resources? Will you help us execute this set of data standards?
Yeah.
that your field force needs to align to, but I need your help to do that. And they won't say how. The first thing they say is not how. They're going to go, why? Why should I do that? Why should I waste my time?
100%.
Because this is going to help you in the job you're trying to do. Peeling it all back again, finding their version of providing value to their relationships through their brands at scale.
100%. And this is obviously for everyone who works in this domain and want to get that kind of funding or support from their executive C-level suite. But also for my fellow salespeople, for my fellow pre-sales people who go to customers and pitch this product, I believe your book, your learnings pretty much is helpful in that area as well. If you want to go and sell something, you need also to stick to those 3 V's rather than show up and throw up and talk about the technicalities. Of course, depends on your audience.
Yeah, but thank you. I mean, this is a compendium in a lot of ways, distilling down what my sales approach was, and whether I was carrying a quota in the old days or was more in strategic marketing like I was at Dun & Bradstreet, helping kind of the organization put its right pitch together. It's still selling. And from that, you need to speak the language of your customer. You need to harmonize to their voice. You need to understand their business challenges and vision. And that will absolutely engender a deeper relationship with whoever you're talking to, because you are connecting with them at a different level. And it's effective, as you suggest, not just about data. We're focused on data here, but it's the kind of soft skill that I think can serve anybody well in any kind of situation. So I'm really pleased that one of my top skills is the ability to communicate, is the ability to kind of convey that message. I come from a family of storytellers, and we're all seem to be blessed with some form of tongue that can, we say our superpowers that we're really convincing. So wouldn't you agree? I'm sure you'd agree.
I 100% agree. And saying that, is there a link between your puppet service videos that you've done in the past year with this family traditions or family history?
Probably somewhere. I mean, if those of you who aren't familiar with it, you should take a look at the puppet video. I have a puppet service announcement called Too Much Tech Talk.
Hilarious.
It's got a CDO, a chief dog officer, an ITB who does nothing but buzzwords, and then a monkey who's from the business who is completely clueless. But it served a serious purpose, which was to get people to focus on the data side. And there's a little bit of performing in my background. I did drama in school and that kind of thing in college, and actually through some bizarre Amazon AI-based categorization process, my book is now ranking as 192 in the performing arts category.
Woohoo!
So
that's great.
I don't know how they did that, but which, as far as I'm concerned, makes me the #1 book in performing arts.
There you go. You've heard it first on my show.
#1 data book. I mean, #1 data book in performing arts.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. All right, let's say hello to some few folks here. We've got Raj coming from Florida. Hello and Happy New Year to you, Raj. We've got Fadi from Sydney. Hello, Fadi. We've got Seth. I'll say that for short, from Sydney. Hello, Seth. We've got Devrat. Howdy. And we've got Anand. Hello, everyone. We've got Gemma or Gemma.
Actually, I have a text from my son who I sent the link to, so I don't know if he tuned in early enough. But Max, here's your guitar. I got your bass. I'm using it.
He's abusing your guitar. All right, we've got Gemma. She's saying, love your puppets. Scott, well, you've got fans here. And we've got Devrat again saying, good to meet everybody here. Hope you are having good start of New Year. We are. Hopefully it will continue like that. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So
more
Scott,
puppets to come for you puppet fans out there. There's more puppets to come. Now that I finished the book, I can now work on funner stuff. So I've got an epic puppet multi-episode arc that I'm preparing, where I'm collecting every possible mistake I've ever found people do do with data. And kind of summing those all up, there's another character I'm introducing, a cat sultant from Meow. So that'll be fun. Of course, it'll be full of buzzwords and all kinds of big things to do that are super expensive, but may not
Right.
work. And
Guy,
all
guys,
kinds of fun characters.
you need to watch these videos. I mean, look up on YouTube for Scott Taylor, and you'll find him right away. I mean, hilarious videos, interesting content, and actually conveys a real message. So, if you want to learn something and enjoy at the same time, well, Scott Taylor is the man to search for.
That's the sweet spot. That's what we aim for, right? Informative and entertaining. If you can get that in the middle, then you're golden. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So everybody listening and watching us, please bring in your questions, feedback, any opinion. We'd love to incorporate that into our discussion. So Scott, continuing with our discussion. So I guess then if I am in a specific organization and I need to have a new system to do X and Y, or if I'm a salesperson, then I need to have my pitch ready. And I recall reading in your book that you had this story where you were working in some organization and you met your CEO and he suddenly told you, all right, so what do you want from me, or something like that. And he put you on the spot, right? And then you told him, let me think. And that was obviously the wrong answer. And you came 6 months after prepared. So what's your wisdom on that one? What can you tell everybody here on this podcast to be ready for?
I worked for this great leader, a guy named Dave Calhoun. He's now the CEO of Boeing, but he was the CEO of Nielsen at the time, and just really an inspirational guy. And I had a great relationship with him. And he said to me one day, he's like, what's the one thing I can do for you? And it was that sort of bottle moment where you want to like wish for 3 more wishes. So I was like, and so I pledged to myself after blowing that opportunity that I would never allow myself to be tongue-tied again. So the recommendation I have for everyone is know what you would ask from your CEO. Know what you would tell your CEO if you ever bump into them. And I had an ongoing relationship with him, so I should have been more prepared. But since then, every company I have worked for in any kind of long engagement or any company I've worked for as an employee, I've always found a way to have a relationship with the CEO. If you can do that, do that. I will tell you my experience with C-level folks, and I was in some cases many levels down, is they want to hear from the rest of the organization, especially if you have an interesting perspective, and not hear all the time, okay, here's what I want. So I was lucky that he asked me what I wanted, but they're wary of people always coming to them asking for things. But is there something you can share about the value of what you do? And the thing you got to watch out for is there's the folks in the middle don't always like that, but I seem to be able to kind of skirt past that in some way or another. And so you want to be prepared. So I was at a couple of the big consulting engagements I had where it was long-term. I was always ready. If I bumped into the CEO, I was ready to tell him what I was doing or tell her what I was doing, and didn't always have that opportunity, but think about that. It's a hard thing sometimes. Sometimes people are sort of shy about it, but my experience has always been with like upper management has always been great.
No, absolutely. I mean, the problem I guess with people is mostly they're shy to speak up or ask for things, and not obviously being prepared when they get the opportunity. So it's really excellent recommendation. Even if you don't anticipate to see your CEO or executive leader in the next week or two, maybe in 1 year or two, still be prepared. Be prepared with that pitch, whatever that pitch is, data related or else. When you get that opportunity, you want to be ready to ask for what you want, and you don't want to regret it. Say, oh, if I could, was prepared, because you might not have the same opportunity once again in the future. So be prepared, regardless what you are trying to get.
And I learned it from, I had a lot of practice at it. So I learned it. I was, like I said, I was at Nielsen. We used to go to these very big, fancy, wonderful executive conferences. And because the part of Nielsen I was in was in the consumer package world, a lot of these folks were people whose names were on the packages. Peter Coors, the Smucker family, people with names that were on supermarket banners and things like that. And I had to go and engage with them in some way, in some casual, relatively informal way. We're at a conference for 3 days together. And so for me, I really honed this ability to be able to succinctly tell someone at that level either the work we were already doing for them or the opportunity I saw for them if they engaged with us. And that takes a lot of practice. So I really, I tried to distill some of that down in the book too, of the things you need to think about. But it's exciting when it happens, when you connect to somebody at that level who, I remember walking to a seminar, which was always a great time to network. And walking to a seminar with the CEO of this extremely large corporation. And I was just chatting with him, and we're walking like side by side. So I couldn't really get all the facial clues. And I said one thing, and he's like, uh-huh. I said another thing, and he goes, uh-huh. I say a third thing, and he just pulls his card out, and he gives it to me. It's like, that was it. And then from there, I was able to call his CIO and get a great meeting. But you never know when you're going to, truly hit the mark, but it's always thrilling to do that.
100%. So it's the right recommendation. Be ready. You never know when you will get that opportunity. It takes a lot of practice, so you better be practicing your pitch before you
practice with your team. That part about the voice. Practice with your team. I know it can be awkward. You can feel shy about it. There's a real tendency for people to say, I'll just do it at the time. So they don't rehearse. They don't go through it. They don't role play. They don't do those very difficult, sometimes awkward things where you're kind of, you're falling on the ice there. You're slipping around. You don't really know it. Do you want to do all that when the moment really comes? Or do you want to have already gone through it? And so you're now able to execute in a much more efficient fashion. Do you know anybody who does anything serious that doesn't train and practice first? No. So this is communicating with leaders is not like sitting around the dining room table with your family where you can all just kind of, mess around. They have a specific amount of time. They're looking, they're listening, they're watching how you behave. And they are absolutely, the higher they are, the less time they have for you, they will give you to kind of figure it out in the moment. Absolutely. And the reverse is true. If you are able to be succinct, if you are able to listen and redirect, if you can handle yourself, you'll get invited back. They'll go, this person's got the goods here. I want to talk to them. They're helping me. They understand the business problems. They understand what we're looking for. They're definitely trying to help. So
absolutely.
I found it really valuable.
It takes training, it takes practice. So do that, guys. And one way to do it is, by the way, is getting Scott's book, which we will talk about shortly. But before we do that, let's say some hellos to some people. We've got Emmanuel, good day from Melbourne, Australia. Hello, Emmanuel.
I recognize you. How are you? Good to see you.
And Happy New Year to you too. We've got Muhammad. He's from Indonesia, saying hello. We've got a question that's coming from Devrat, asking if we get 5 minutes with C-level, how to pitch and what to pitch for, how to present a story leading to action support from them. Not everyone has luxury of having puppet shows already.
Didn't do the puppet shows and the C-level pitches. I got a pretty wide range. So, there's serious white paper executive presentations, and then there's puppet shows, but it's like that. What we're talking about is talking about getting support for data management, that specific topic area. So when you say, what do we pitch for? It's what you need for that. So I'm going to limit the answer to that question kind of around that topic. And it really is understanding, okay, what do you need? Think about the outcome. You think about the end in mind. How do you want to end up? What do you want to get walking out of that meeting? You won't get everything. And I'm not talking about negotiating. I'm just talking about understanding the commitment that you are asking for. That's a must. You can't walk into a meeting without an objective. Our objective today is to get the senior leadership to support the next phase of requirements or implementation or whatever you want to call it for whatever data thing you're talking about. Or it's to give us $1 million because we figured this really cool thing out that's going to help grow and improve and protect our business, whatever those things are. So know what that is. You can't end any of those meetings without having a next step. If you can offer up the next step and suggest the next step, you're better off. It will get you to where you want to go more quickly. It's rare that an executive meeting would end with, so that's great. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Any questions? Happy to send you the deck. Thanks. Have a wonderful weekend. That's a weak meeting. You don't want to end with that. 100%. So figure out what that thing you are looking for. And this is, Sam, as you know, this is very much sales oriented.
100%.
It is a pitch. You are selling it.
Yeah.
Know what that is and then back it up from there. And so the challenge is, and your objective is, how do you get somebody to go? I always think of it this way too, the really extremes. How do you get them to go from, I have no idea what you are talking about, to, we can't live without this? That's the journey.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that answer, Scott. All right, so we'll proceed now, but I would encourage everybody to keep asking us questions, give us your opinion, feedback. That will help us to incorporate that into our discussion. Scott, the world is a small place, right? And the internet is even smaller. And I've been hearing some rumors that there is a fourth V. And I would like to know what's that V today. Is there any?
A fourth V in my 3 Vs?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your rumors? Was there one?
I've been digging around the internet, and yeah, I've just read that somewhere. So is that true?
No. No, there's no fourth V. This is not big data Vs here. This is not going to go on, volume, velocity, variety, value, vicertitude, verisimilitude.
Yeah.
42 Vs that people have come up with, which is like this crazy brain teaser. How many ways can we talk about a single topic by only using words to start with the same letter? I boil this down to 3 Vs here: vocabulary, voice, vision. Those are my 3 Vs.
So that's rumor is incorrect. Okay, that's good. That's good.
And I'm a purist on the big data side too. So I'm a devout follower of Doug Laney. If you know Doug, he was Gartner analyst forever, father of infonomics, great guy. And he said there were 3: volume, velocity,
enough making more V's.
Yeah. And part of his premise was those things show and kind of articulate bigness. So when people say value, value can be small. Value isn't necessarily big. So that's the fourth V in the 3 V's of big data. And then people have added more and more and more and more just because they start with V. But do all those things suggest bigness, largeness, unstructuredness, things that are almost out of control? I don't think so. So, tip of the hat to Mr. Laney there. He boiled it down to those 3 V's, and it became truly, as I would say, my first V, the vocabulary of the space around what big data is, and in some cases what it isn't.
Awesome. All right. So on the note of storytelling, Scott, so when I hear the word storytelling, I almost think of presentation and being on stage and telling audience story. Is this relevant to data storytelling?
I think it helps practice. I mean, I get on stage all the time and tell these stories. But any form of storytelling, if you are going to present in front of a large group of business people, there's a certain amount of theatrics that are present, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
By the way, if you can understand those techniques, I don't touch on any of this in the book necessarily. These are more sort of sales and drama techniques, if you will. But if you can understand them, know that they're there, then it's going to help you convey that. You don't have to be on a big stage with a lot of lights, but if you're at the front of a conference, if you're in a conference room and there's 12 people, here's my suggestion: stand in the front of the conference room and stand up.
Mm-hmm.
You're there to direct and manage the conversation, to understand the energy, to direct where these 12 people are going to go to get to that objective that you came in there trying to meet. If you just sit down and slouch over, just go through my deck over here, no problem. I just, then you
Nobody's
have a
gonna
really
listen.
good chance of somebody else taking over.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not a big, power struggle. It's just simply like sight lines and attention. Where do people look?
Yeah, yeah.
It's, some really basic stuff.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
I like to be there as the guy to remind people that basic stuff.
Yeah, I know this is not relevant to the book or the topic of today's discussion, but I've seen plenty of your videos presenting in big conferences, and I mean, wow, that was astonishing. The energy that you brought to that room, the way you made everybody laugh, happy about. I mean, that's really what it takes if you want to connect with people. You've used the same language that they understood. You were human with them rather than a robot, just telling whatever on slides, and that's what works in sales or non-sales in general. All right, so
thank you. Keep going. This is great. Keep going. I'm loving this.
Awesome. All right. So my last point here before we talk about your book is about the technical aspect of it. So I go to this executive room and I did my pitch, which is great, and they're buying it and they want to invest in it. What about the technical aspect of it? Do you have any comments on that? I mean, the actual implementation of whatever I pitched.
Yeah, I don't cover that on purpose because I take the why, but you've got to have that. That needs to be there. And clearly, if somebody says yes to something, they are most likely assuming that you can do it. So you must have that technical piece there. I don't mean to try and persuade people not to cover that. I'm just trying to open it up that it's not just that. And I don't think we have to spend too much time trying to convince data and tech people to not be too technical, not cover the technical side. They certainly have those kind of chops and that kind of background. But it's this sweet spot really between the why and the how, between the vision and the implementation, between the head in the clouds and the feet on the ground, between creating that compelling storyline, but also being technically accurate. Both of those have to be in play, the sizzle and the steak. So you need both. Sizzle without a steak is just a bunch of noise, and steak without sizzle is a raw piece of meat nobody wants to eat. So you gotta have that combination, that yin and yang, however you want to define it.
I agree. I mean, eventually, if you want to really be seen as a trusted advisor, and if you sell something nice to them and pitch it nice, then you need to be able actually to deliver whatever that you promise to them. So if you are not able to, then I mean, your credibility will just be blown away. So be prepared for both in order to fulfill your pitch to those executive people that you're pitching to. All right, so now I'd like to speak about your great book, which came in last month in 2020.
There it is. All right.
There it is. That's the book. And the book is called Telling Your Data Story. And it's obviously by you. And it's 99% buzzword free. And I 100%. Yes. And I 100% agree on that because I went through it, guys. There is no buzzword in there. I loved it. It's very natural. It speaks to you. You can hear Scott's voice when you are reading the book, which is scary in a way, but it is that good. Can you tell us about that book, Scott?
So it's what else can I tell you? Did it this year was my COVID project. I've been thinking about doing a book for a while and realized I'm never going to get time like this again. I better really do it this time. So I'm really proud I finally got it together. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of non-fun work, actually. It's not really. It's just it's not doing puppets and trying to put it together and it's one thing to write a couple page blog. It's another thing to do a couple 100-page book. And so that kind of pushed me to the edge of some of my capabilities, but I think I for sure came through. And I got a couple of trusted partners who helped me review it and look at it and make sure it was right. But you're right. A number of people have said they can kind of hear me when they read it. Yes. So I guess I guess they have their own audiobook version of it with me talking.
You're whispering in the book.
Yeah. Not a lot of whispering in it too when I talk about that. But hopefully it takes apart kind of that process. Every chapter is a storytelling chapter. My data story, the classic data story, building your data story, framing your data story, finding your data story, selling your data story. So there's that theme in there. Part of what I delineate too is the difference between data storytelling for data management and what is probably the more recognizable type of data storytelling, which is really focused on analytics. And that was the inspiration for the book. Part of it was I'm telling stories. There's lots of stories about data, but this thing called data storytelling, which is probably the hottest non-technical thing going on out there in the data space, was focused entirely on the analytics side of the business, on the meaning side of the business. And I believe that it's divided into two parts. There's deriving meaning, which is what analytics does. And then there's determining the truth in data, which is what data management does. Hence the meaning of my truth hat that I've been wearing here. So I'm clearly the truth side. And it's not chicken or egg here. It is egg and omelet. You've got to determine the truth first before you can derive any meaning. A somewhat fancier way to say garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out. But if GIGO worked as a way to explain it to the business people, none of us, I certainly wouldn't have written a book. It doesn't work. Those kind of, cliches don't really break through anymore.
Yeah.
So I tried to, pull it together, as I mentioned, kind of delineate. So there's a lot of books out there. There's like 30 books out there about data storytelling, but they're all about analytics. Sure. So if you want one about data management, I got one for you.
Yeah, so guys, this book is out there, and this is the QR code. Just grab your phone, open your camera, and you'll head directly to Amazon, and you'll be able to purchase it from there. I've purchased it myself. I've read it in literally a day. I mean, that's record. I know.
It's a quick read here. It's not that thick. It's it's.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
You don't want to go. That's the point too. Right, it's part of the point. It's not a 700-page book because it shouldn't be.
Yes,
but
there's no BS.
Try to keep it light. There's some cartoons in there which were fun to do. There's some anecdotes. There's some stories that people will hopefully enjoy, and
100%. So my advice is guys, get it if you want to really take your pitch into the next level. If you want to have a better story. Again, whether that you're working in sales or pre-sales or working in an organization as data leaders and you want to be seen as trusted advisor, this is the right book. There's no BS in this book, and that's why I loved reading it. It's quick, it's sweet, and it's to the point. And that, I believe, what all books should be all about. I mean, other books, you read the first chapter, second chapter, and then it just keep repeating itself. This book doesn't. So it's right to the point. It's the one that you should be getting in 2021 to start a new year with new resolution.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we've got last two questions and comments. I would like to go through them really quick. We've got Emmanuel here saying, great discussion dealing with executive when presenting new initiatives. Make sure you have your why sorted out. 100%. Executive probably have a vague idea what they are paying you for. And if you go beyond these bounds, you need to justify how you are spending your time. I couldn't agree more with that, Emmanuel.
Sure.
We've got a question from Raj saying, Scott, can you share insights on any prerequisite for creating an effective vocabulary and voice, and any challenges you have encountered, and share tips of these experiences? Example, organizational culture, technology, data silos, etc. In 1 minute, Scott.
All right, Raj, that's like 2/3 of the book. But anyway, so vocabulary, take the vocabulary thing. So a lot of, one of the first steps in data governance, data management, master data management is to create a business glossary. that's a good place to start for the vocabulary of your business. Do you call it a customer? Do you call it a consumer? Do you call it a patient? What are those entities in terms of your relationships? Also, looking at your industry, your vertical. There's in every vertical out there, there's a standards organization, there's industry organizations. They have a set of nomenclature, terminology, vernacular that's used to describe and articulate what the entities are in that particular space. Those terms could be meaningless to somebody outside that space, but leveraging that and understanding that. So that's the basis for your vocabulary. Every major organization I've ever dealt with has their own set of terms. So you want to borrow those as well. And that starts to put together, when you think of the vocabulary too, you want to start with the nouns, the people, the places, the things that you do. And the voice part, a tip I have, and when I talk to organizations about putting their own internal communications plan together, which, by the way, if you work at an enterprise and you are looking to get some help putting that communications plan together about why data management is so important, happy to help and can chat with you about those kind of opportunities. But a good place to start is your own advertising, your own positioning, your own external marketing. How does your company talk about itself? That'll give you a sense of the tone. That'll give you clues into what's important. And borrowing some of that, even in times mimicking it or repeating it or twisting it into a data kind of perspective that may only be something that the people in your own organization would appreciate. Those are really good little nuggets and good techniques to try and look at. So long-winded way to say, don't start with a blank sheet of paper. There's lots of resources out there that your company already has established that will give you those clues. As I mentioned some of them before, when you get into the vision side and even in the vocabulary side, look at your own company strategy statement. If you're a public company, look at your annual report, not the hundreds of pages of financials in the back, but what your CEO writes as the positioning statement. Look at your Investor Day presentation. Great place to look. And anytime I ever called on a public company, I'd look at their Investor Day presentation. There's always a couple slides in there about where they want to go, how they define the market, the issues in their marketplace and at their company, and the challenges. Go right to that. What you will never find in any annual report that I've ever seen or any Investor Day presentation is, we need better data quality. Not in there. So it's your job to connect those strategic intentions as published by your company to what you do in data management and data science. That's your task to accomplish. I can help you through my book, because Sam can help you through his thought leadership. Lots of help out there. But if you don't close that gap, you're going to struggle a lot in trying to get the support you're looking for.
I couldn't agree more. And to get the full answer, Raj, go and get Scott's book, because it has the real full answer in there. I mean, that's exactly what Scott said. It's 2/3 of his book to answer your question. But a good one. And we've got hi from Discovery BI. Hello, Discovery BI. All right, so the hour really passed fast. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I mean, we've got more questions.
An hour already. Okay.
Yeah.
It's tomorrow there, isn't it? Tomorrow where you are?
It is tomorrow for you. Yeah. It's really looking really good. So be optimistic. It's gonna be good for you as well.
Okay, good. That's good. Phew.
Awesome, Scott. Scott, any final words before we end this?
Just embrace it. One tip that I didn't talk about and you related to, people respond to people who really believe in things. They respond to passion. They respond to enthusiasm. They respond to energy. I have this, I call it Taylor's Law of Energy. Nobody can get more excited about something than you. So if you go and talk to somebody and you're really excited, you might be able to bring them up to your excitement level. If you're down here, they're not gonna be up here. They're gonna be down below you. Actually, the only person who get more excited about what you're talking about than you is your mother. So my mom definitely
Yeah.
gets excited about all sorts of stuff. But normally, so you've got to bring that. You don't want to go too high because you just like freak them out. But have that passion, have that direction, have that enthusiasm, have that intention as much as you can. And I believe it will serve you well in all kinds of situations.
Well said. If you're not excited about something, how do you expect other people to be excited about it? I couldn't agree more.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for this amazing episode. It was really enjoyable. Thank you so much, and we'll speak soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
All right, so this brings us to the end of today's episode. I would like to thank everybody who attended live. As usual, I would like to ask you to do like this video to help me reach more people. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please click on that small subscribe button over there. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, do share it with your friends, connections, and add me as well to your connections so we can speak further. And let's keep the conversation going. Now, until I see you next time, you take care and be safe.